Hello, welcome to the Werewolf by Night bonus show. This is a show that we make for our patrons who subscribe on Patreon. If you're at the $3 or above level, you're seeing our lovely faces. You're also seeing the lovely face of our guest. This is the first guest that we have had on the bonus show. Russ from Tomes of Evil, Gamma Charge, so many podcasts. He's starting a new one. Yeah, Predator Prey. Staples and Steaks. Is that Steaks and Staples?
Steaks and Staples.
Steaks and Staples. That's the new one with the brand new episode that's out.
Just listened to that a couple days ago. Good stuff.
Oh,
so,
thanks.
Russ, feel special because you're our first guest on the bonus show.
I do feel special. I guess I didn't realize that I was the first bonus show guest.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we were excited to have you on, and you also you did kind of insist to come on for this. Not gonna lie. Well, you're a friend, so we were like, okay, if Russ wants to come on, he must have a really good reason because he
volunteered
must love
your
this.
services.
You did volunteer your services, and we love your services. So
I said I want to fight some Nazis.
yeah. So you're joining us today because we are talking about a movie called The Howling II. Your Sister is a Werewolf. Also called what? Sturba Werewolf Bitch. And so this is a movie that obviously you are so passionate about that you couldn't stand that we were going to talk about it, and you weren't going to be there with us to interject your wisdom about this film.
Yeah, and I know that you saw it recently, right? For the first time. So before you get too deep into it, I want you just to talk about like, what is you're a huge horror fan. You're on our Discord server. We're talking about Halloween stuff, horror franchises, all these different films. So I know you're a horror fan. What is your relationship before you even give any kind of response to this film as a movie to just like your awareness of Howling the series, but particularly the sequels, I think is more important than anything.
Well, I had actually seen this prior to my full series watch. Yes, I did a complete watch through of all the Howling movies in a row, and I'll never get that week of my life back. And it's the Howling was one of the first, the original Howling, one of the first werewolf movies I saw where it was like, oh, this is not Lon Chaney. This is like, because I saw that at a young age, and I remember there being lots of boobs and lots of gore, and I was mesmerized. And then I saw Howling 2 on TV.
On TV.
Well, it was a movie channel, so
okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't on like TBS. It was 41 minutes long.
Movies for a rained out game.
Movies for a rained out ball game.
Yeah. Oh man, I have such a weird relationship with this movie, and I guess I did kind of insist about being here. I mean, you all could have told me to fuck off, and that would have been fine. I wouldn't have been mad.
No, you just volunteered your services and let us know that you were passionate about it, and
in an insistent way.
Yeah.
Give or take,
but totally acceptable because we love you. You're going to be coming on the main show in just a couple weeks, really, to talk about an episode or an issue of Incredible Hulk that Jack shows up in. So we're really excited about that. So, I guess just to get started. So, The Howling II, Your Sister is a Werewolf came out in 1985. It's directed by Philippe Mora. It's I guess in reading it, it's really the only out of the 7 Howling films. This is the only one that is actually a direct sequel to the first one, right? And it talks about characters from the first one, starting with The Howling 3, which I personally love and have a lot to say about. That just totally veers off into nonsense land. Yeah. Also known as Australia, and and so
sorry, Andrew.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew.
I think Ray's.
Sorry, Ray. I love you guys and I love Australia, but that movie is insane in a really, really great way. But so I saw this for the first time tonight. I sometimes, if I can, I like to watch the film right before or pretty close to the time that we record, so I can be fresh and have lots of stuff to say. So it stars Christopher Lee along with Reb Brown, Annie McEnroe are basically the main characters. Christopher Lee plays an occult investigator. And
Stefan Krosko.
Stefan Krosko, I know.
Wow,
and yeah, so Reb
I'm using
Brown,
that name whenever I check into a hotel now.
Oh, right. That'd be such a great pseudonym. So Reb Brown plays Ben White, who is the sister of Karen White, who we saw turn into a werewolf at the end of the first Howling.
And this is such a direct sequel that they had to recast Dee Wallace's character and show this picks up at the funeral of her. Her death was the ending of Howling 1, and this picks up at her funeral. So, I mean, it's probably a week or two after the ending of the first film.
Also a little bit retconny right away. But, you know.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Away.
So, yeah, Jenny Templeton is the other character who also worked at the TV station and kind of becomes Ben White's sidekick / love interest. And like you said, it starts right at Karen White's funeral.
Wow. I mean, you have to kind of talk a bit about, I mean, I don't want to be a dick, but you didn't mention Sybil Danning, which is the reason that everyone with a interest in females watched this movie.
See, I was trying to, I don't think I've seen a movie with her in it.
Dude, she's in a Wings Hauser movie.
Was she in a Wings Hauser movie that we watched? Because she looks familiar, but I couldn't.
B-movie Bingo.
Oh, okay. That was the one. Okay.
It's like the female version of Cobretti.
That's right. Okay. I knew that I had seen her in something.
Like the drug dealing, painting villain.
Yeah, but I was looking through her IMDb and I'm like, I know I've seen her in something. Yeah. But yeah, all the Wings Hauser movies that we watch have the most generic titles that they could be 100 other
movies.
Living to Die. So Matt and I,
Art of Dying. These are not generic.
You're right. They're so unique. So Matt and I saw a movie with Sybil Danning at the Hollywood Theater here in Portland. There's a some guys that do this thing called B-movie bingo, which Matt took me to for the first time, and it's the coolest idea. Matt, you should at least explain what B-movie bingo is because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's basically like any kind of Vestron video action movie. Sci-fi action, whatever action, horror action, we name it. But they hand out bingo cards that have randomized tropes from 80s and early 90s action films, like
someone being
force,
or someone being shot through a plate glass window, or
abandoned warehouse, just stuff like that. So it's like you play bingo as the movie goes on, and these are all randomized. And if you get a bingo, you yell bingo out. They pause the film. It's all on VHS tapes projected on the movie screen, and you run up there and you get these prizes. And a lot of them are like they went on eBay and bought posters from the film.
Oh wow!
Promotional materials for the movie, whatever. Just random stuff like that.
It is the most fun I've ever had at a film, and people just shout things out the entire time.
People are like just
everyone is super drunk and high. It is honestly the most fun I've ever had. Whenever I go with Matt, I love it. I absolutely love it.
I just have to say that you guys just paint Portland as like this magical land of just everything is awesome. And like I'm here in Tobacco Mountain Dew land in Kentucky, and just everything's not so awesome here. So
Tobacco Mountain Dew land. I skipped that part of Disneyland. Yeah. I didn't go to that one.
The film with Sybil Danning and my hero Wings Hauser is called L.A. Bounty.
Oh, damn it! I was trying to remember. Thank you.
It's got her holding a gun sideways, and I think Wings Hauser doing. It's like an 89. Come on,
check that bingo square.
Anyway, she's gorgeous. She's an Austrian American model / actress. I think she's more of a model than an actress. But what I really love about this movie, I mean, first of all, my point was like, you have to talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff, right? I'm like, Gary Brandner, the writer of the novel series, was not happy with the way they loosely adapted his first novel into a film, which is like Stephen King saying, I didn't like the way he made the Shining. Like, fuck you. Well, you're like Kubrick, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, I'm kind of a King basher. So
it's well established.
I believe he kind of had a hand in this, right? Like he did the screenplay, and it's loosely he loosely adapted his second novel. So what the fuck is he complaining about? But I love that they got Christopher Lee in this.
Oh my God.
Christopher Lee is an incredibly talented, classy man. Granted, he made a lot of Dracula movies, and he was not that into him after the first one. No, he's like, I don't want to be typecast. Can my character not talk? Like that kind of cliche. Like, can I just get the check and just like I just stare at the screen a couple
like,
times.
Like Vampira and Plan 9.
Like in Ed Wood. Yeah. What if my character's mute? But he turned around and embraced it and had fun with those. So he did the whole Hammer Dracula cycle, which I fucking love. I watched last Halloween for the first time in order, one a day. And it was so fun. But this thing, he's clearly not into it, I think, in a lot of times, but he gave it his all. He is not going to short anybody their money, right? No. But I remember reading behind the scenes stuff where he was horrified that he was involved in this project. When he was not on camera and not required to be professional, he was very cold and standoffish to everyone involved. Like, he was not happy to be there. A lot of this was shot in Czechoslovakia, which was a country at the time. And then in LA is the other scenes. I think Joe Dante hired him for something, because Joe Dante directed the first film. I can't remember what he worked on. Gremlins 2.
Gremlins 2, yeah.
And he apologized profusely for like, I'm so sorry I was in Howling 2. I'm so
That was the first thing he said to Joe Dante as shaking his hand. Literally is the first thing. He's like,
sorry about Howling 2.
I really apologize. No, I read the same thing, Matt, that I think his face was described like he'd just sit down and it looked like he was wishing himself away from the set. Like he'd just kind of disassociate. Yes. And I think it was
just a bad dream.
Yeah, I think it seemed like it was more in response to how terrible his two main co-stars were as actors. They're so bad. And he is a fucking pro. Like, he's such a pro that, I mean, I was reading behind the scenes things too. So I guess some of the original costume or like werewolf stuff that came ended up just being like Planet of the Apes costumes, right? and to where Christopher Lee's like, no, I'll make sense of it by saying that, it's an evolutionary kind of devolving that's happening, and that somehow ape is the second thing from man to ape to werewolf. But he's Christopher Lee, and his voice is so cool that anything he says, you're going to be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I get it.
I didn't question it when I watched it 2 days ago. So
Nope. I didn't either. And yeah, you're right. I mean, he's a pro. And I think he also said that he agreed to do this because he hadn't been in a werewolf film yet. Like, he was that game. Like, he was just like, okay, I haven't been in a werewolf film.
Been a mummy.
Fine.
Been a Dracula.
Yeah.
And so,
but I'm sure I'm sure he gets to the set and he's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably basing that off. Sorry, Russ, but like the fact that Joe Dante caliber of director and Rick Baker special effects, he's probably thinking this movie had cred for being a horror film. This was a mainstream success. I'm happy to jump in here. And once he got on this, the director was trying to make a stylish 80s slick sex progressive something, which just means dated in parentheses.
Yes.
So yeah, he probably realized that right away. Like, this is the equivalent of going to a mod bar in a late 67 movie and like having everyone have like pass joints around and be like, yeah, man, like this movie's gonna be a classic.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Russ, please proceed.
I feel so bad for him the moment he gets on screen, and he has to put on those dumb glasses at that bar, and he's like you said, he is doing his absolute best, but it's just his co-stars are just not hanging with him on that.
You can see in his eyes he's saying, Wicker Man, take me away.
Take me away. Yeah, even though I thought I loved that the opening of the film is like, Christopher Lee kind of disembodied against stars. Reading from the Book of Revelation.
Yeah, it's like Dune.
It was like Virginia Madsen in Dune. It was totally like that. And funny, the guy that played one of the guys in here, I can't remember what the actor's name is. He played Mickey from Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Yeah, the con.
That's all I know him from.
Well, he's also Jamis from Dune. He's who Paul kills. Yeah,
the Chris knife.
With the Chris knife to be accepted into the Fremen tribe.
I don't know how I forgot that.
Yeah. So, we got some parallels there.
Okay.
Well, I did want to say also, we didn't mention her, and with all due respect, Matt, Sybil Danning, is up there. But I think Marsha Hunt is what I remember more about this movie. I don't know why she stuck with me for so long, but yeah, and I found out that she sired one of Mick Jagger's children.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
Huh.
But yeah, I would have to be that the first time you see her, she's like, kind of setting that trap for those punks, and they started playing the song.
Band.
Yeah,
credits.
punk. But I think what like embroidered that image into my brain is that it shows like the same footage of her like half werewolf looking back and forth like 82 times in this movie.
This film is half music video, half film.
Yeah.
They repeated so much footage throughout. There's some weird stuff where they clearly were doing screen tests and it didn't work, so they didn't use it for whole scenes, but they used it for these flash cuts where they have like a rubber faced, like ghoulies werewolf kind of going like
so weird. Like I honestly think maybe there was a decent film somewhere in this, but I feel like the editing is the worst offender here. I mean, there was stuff that I enjoyed about this film, and we'll walk through it a little bit.
Yeah.
But
we're dancing around it right now.
We're dancing around it, but I honestly think what makes this the parts of this movie that are terrible filmmaking, I feel like aside from a lot of the acting, it's the editing. Like it's just edited so poor. And maybe the poor guy only had he's like, oh my God, I have to make a 90-minute film. I have 72 minutes of footage. Like, what do I do? And so, I'm sure he was working under duress. But Russ, why don't you take us through some of this that you remember from the first half?
Okay. So you mentioned that, we start on Dee Wallace's character is her funeral, and it's obviously not her. And Christopher Lee shows up and just kind of crashes this funeral. Well, also the werewolves are casting the funeral or crashing the funeral. Sorry, It's been a long day. But I have to just quick comment that there's no singular werewolf form in this. They go from kind of full werewolf to wolf man to I just have some fangs. There's even one point where it's like this old man werewolf. He looks like the cartoon that they referenced in The Mask with the wolf
Tex Avery.
Pounding on the table, and it's just, but it's so weird. It's like they could not decide what kind of werewolf, and what shocks me the most is none of them look like the werewolf in the first.
No, they're evolving.
Not at all. I mean, the werewolf in the first film, there were bladders, there were all sorts of stuff. I mean, I think for the first half of the movie, when we do see Sybil Danning, she basically just has fur just glued to her chest. And
I'm fine with that.
And I'm totally fine with that too. But it was, I don't know how much you actually want to go scene by scene on this.
We don't have to go scene by scene.
We don't need to do that.
Do a broad. It's like That's Cool, That's Trash. We can do a broad synopsis and then kind of jump into our favorite stuff, because I have a ton of stuff I want to say.
Right.
I don't want to be married to the plot.
No, I don't want to be married to the plot. So, I mean, I think the most inconsequential part of the movie, it takes place in America, where basically Christopher Lee recruits these two kids, or Karen's brother and a person that she worked with to help him, and so the werewolves try and come and dig up Karen's body, right? Who's going to be resurrected.
Christopher Lee, she's not dead.
Yeah, she's not dead, and so they kind of fight with some werewolves, and then Christopher Lee tells them that there's this 10,000-year-old werewolf.
Oh yeah,
named Stirba, who is in Transylvania, and they need to go there. And so, and I'm really glossing over how many times we get to hear the song "The Howling" by the band Babel,
oh my God,
which is a lot. And I'm actually not complaining. I think there's a lot of shitty parts in this movie. I wasn't sad when the song played. I actually kind of liked that. That might be some of my favorite stuff.
It's really half music video, half film.
I mean, it really is.
The way they were trying to do a bleeding edge, like, have you guys ever seen the movie Vamp? That was made like in 85, 86.
No.
It has Chris Makepeace in it.
Add that to my notes.
The guy from 16 Candles, that was the Asian character. I forgot what his Long Duck Dong, where the fuck his racist name is in 16 Candles.
Yeah.
And Grace Jones.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's
I know
about
what
these
you're
guys
talking about.
So it's about these guys who are like trying to get into a frat, and they're like, "Hey, get us a stripper, and we'll let you into this pledge thing or something like that." Mm-hmm. And so they go to this weird part of town, which is like nightmarish neon, whatever, like tumbleweeds of newspapers. They go to this scary ass bar. Grace Jones is fucking amazing. Keith Haring painted her full body, so she's naked with Keith Haring art on her.
That's awesome.
And it's all this underground bar of vampires. These guys get embroiled in this thing, and it's super stylized, super 1985, super cool, super whatever postmodern, but it's very MTV. But it's worth watching. It's kind of strange. I forgot who the other guy is in it, but
yeah, I heard about that. I heard about that on In Search of Darkness. That was the documentary. I think it was the second
episode
part of that. Yeah,
or chunk. Yeah,
but she the fun part I remember about that is that she actually bit someone for real and caused damage.
Me at all, man. But this is like the cheap. Companion to that. Like, I just want to come out of the gate here and say I fucking love this. I saw this for the first time in the last 2 years since COVID. It was something I danced around. I knew the video art of the sunglasses and the teeth tearing through whatever the nails was like, emblazoned on my mind from VHS shelves, but I never saw it. I just assumed it was crap. Saw it in the last 2 years, and I loved it because I love movies that are trying to do something big, trying to be whatever, and just kind of falling on their face. I mean, I just ego exploitation, anything where it's trying to be super slick and cool, but not having the chops to get there entertains the shit out of me. So like I saw all the telltale signs of being a psychotronic movie host immediately. Like when they bring the punk kids to the warehouse for feeding on them in the beginning, and what's her name transforms into the werewolf, and you see her looking in a dark background, black background, just looking back and forth, like whatever. Like I knew the first time I saw it, I was like, I'm gonna see that a bunch of times.
Yep.
Because they put all the makeup on her. It took 6 hours. They put her in front of a black background. It can be used whatever you want. And sure enough, it was used throughout the entire film. Same thing with that rubber werewolf head that was just drooling.
Oh, wasn't that awesome?
Like, we're gonna be seeing that a lot. Everything that's like these cutaways mean it's all padding. It's all filler.
Well, it's just weird because I would think that, I mean, I didn't read all the behind the scenes stuff didn't really explain why this one obviously didn't have the budget that the first one did. The first one was very successful. I would assume that they would throw a lot of money at this thing, but they obviously did not.
Was 4 years later. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that they had a couple failed
yeah, you're probably right.
sequels get off the ground, and then it was just kind of a property where it was like, we still own this. We threw a bunch of money at it, nothing stuck, so let's just give it to somebody and have them do it in Czechoslovakia, and hopefully get some money back. I think it went straight to video. I can't remember if it played in theaters or not.
It was briefly in theaters, and it actually debuted.
It was recouping. It was a recouping project.
It debuted as Werewolf Sturba Bitch in theaters, which I find insane that was the title that made it into theaters. And
that's great.
When they brought it to video, it was Your Sister's a Werewolf. But yeah, I mean, we can't talk about this movie without talking about the song. And awesome. the first time I saw this movie, like I said, it was on a movie channel when I was a teenager. And that song wormed its way into my mind for the rest of my life, just after that one viewing, to the point where when I would think of the Howling, I wouldn't think of the original. the first thing that would come to my mind, I would just, oh yeah, the Howling, the pale light, the pale light of the moon. I was like, oh my God, just how many times they say howl. It's just
that just classic mid 80s electronic drum machine.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. There was a quote from director Philippe Mora who said that he said he was inspired by new wave eroticism. Yeah. I was just like, okay, I haven't heard that term before, but I guess you mean like the sexy Duran Duran videos. I think
that's what he was. I mean, I knew what he meant.
Yeah,
I just never heard the term.
That's that's right up there with Malibu Gothic. That's just one of those.
Well, it is. But when he said that, when he said new wave eroticism, I literally thought Hungry Like the Wolf, that video.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he's trying to do.
I thought of music videos and I thought of Vamp.
Yeah. No, it's Russ, I honestly think it's a great song.
I love it.
I think it's it's a genuinely good song, and it is an earworm. It gets in your head because it's goofy. You could say it's terrible. I actually don't think it's terrible. I think it's objectively kind of a great song, kind of well written. And so, I totally understand that would be what would come into your head when you think The Howling.
Yeah, if you, like you said, the movie is a music video. It's basically a music video to that song.
Yeah, like in your room again.
I feel like the guy, what was it, Babel? I feel like they really thought this was going to be the one. Like,
this was going to take them straight to the topmost of the popmost.
He got the soundtrack gig, so his band wrote a song for it. He got in control of the entire soundtrack, and he's like, "What if this scene just had Howling playing in it?"
The song.
Oh, for the 17th time? Yes.
Yeah.
But just the drums.
Yeah.
And how much will this cost us?
Yeah. Big fat zero. So I feel like the movie really takes off, I guess, once they get to Transylvania, when it basically just becomes, okay, so I know he just wanted to kind of do like a werewolf softcore thing. Mm-hmm. And so there are totally like softcore, like werewolf orgies, werewolf threesomes. But I feel like the direction, like honestly, so the two main characters, Ben and Jenny, when they get to a room when they're in Transylvania, and they're going to start having sex, they have a hug. Their initial hug is the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen two people do in my entire life. Like, I was just like, wow, that's what you left in. Like, did you really only get one take of them kind of hugging like no human beings have ever hugged before?
Everything feels like one take.
Everything is one take. When
Sybil Danning and the two werewolves all kind of have that orgy, it feels like they were rolling like, let's just try it. Like, just express yourself. Bring out your inner wolf, all right? Just do some stuff, and we'll just roll. We'll just roll, but we're not going to use any of this. Like, it's that bad. Like,
oh, it was so weird.
Like, find your inner wolf, bring it out. Like, okay, that was it. No, we're done. Oh no, that was it. We got it.
We got it. Print. Yeah, it was.
Moving on.
It was just so weird, but I think you're absolutely right, Matt. I think every single scene in this was a first take. I just think
didn't run into a door jam. It was printed.
Yeah, it's like, no, he would have trouble going through that door in real life.
So what I love about this, in addition to all things we've already said, is just like that you have this weird pivot to like, okay, so, this is pre-Predator, right? This is 85.
Yep.
But like this weird pivot to like these like action badass whatever movies where it's like, how can we get the horror thing? We got this property, The Howling, and get guns and action movie in here, right? So like, get Reb Brown. He screams every time he does anything. Yeah. He screams when he shoots a gun. He screams when he runs. He screams when he kicks somebody. And this weird, like, there's guns, like just guns being everywhere. That 80s, pounded into pop culture. Like, everybody had a gun. They're like, oh, here's a titanium knife. Here's a titanium sword. Here's silver bullets. And he's like, I got this. This I know, like rocks and balls and all this shit.
And no matter how much you love this movie, you've got to admit that Reb Brown might be the worst actor of all time.
Oh, he's shockingly bad to the point where it's
shockingly bad.
Was this before or after he was Captain America?
This was after.
Okay.
He was like mid 70s, late 70s. I think.
That was 78, 79. Those two Captain America TV movies.
I always get confused because there was two 90s Captain America TV movies.
That was J.D. Salinger's son.
Yeah.
They played the Captain. Yeah.
I laugh every time that's pointed out.
It's so weird.
So good.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to like. It's imagine it's a love or hate it thing, right? I mean, like I absolutely loved it. I felt like a little teeny bopper, Bobby Sox girl holding the Frank Sinatra record, rolling on the floor, listening to the album, like clutching the record jacket. Like the first time I saw this, like, this is what I live for in bad movies. Like, this is what makes me happy. This is my core.
Just real quick, I got to talk about what is the power scaling on Sturba, because she goes from, she's a werewolf. She's a really old werewolf. And then she turns into Emperor Palpatine and she starts shooting lightning out of her fingers.
She has force lightning.
Well, she's 10,000 years old.
And she possesses a little person. And then she
makes his eyes explode.
Yeah.
That was a great scene. That was a really, really great scene. That was one of my favorites.
So good.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Sturba's powers were so over the top, and her that was one of my favorite things. I really thought that the climax of this movie was really a great climax with Sturba shooting force lightning at Christopher Lee, who has some kind of shield, some kind of like personal Dune shield around him or something.
A lot of Dune.
A lot of Dune in this movie. Oh man, it was so bad.
The reveal that Christopher Lee is her sibling? Is that
lover?
Yeah, her brother lover. Totally makes sense, obviously, for this film. Yeah, that was weird and was kind of one of those things where I'm like, wow, that just came out of nowhere. But I'm going with it because the movie's almost over. And I mean, I think anyone who's listened to us describe this, you know whether you're going to love it or not. A lot of people hate this movie. I think it has a 3.6 on IMDb.
I would buy it on Blu-ray in a fucking heartbeat for $25-$30.
I think I was right in the middle. I think I really enjoyed parts of it, but I also thought parts of it were just so horrendous that I had a difficult time. Russ, what are your final thoughts on this? What would you give a final review for this on?
Final thoughts, like we've had this discussion in the Discord about how, like, I think horror is relative. Like, you can make a really bad horror movie and people will still love it, or you can make a funny horror movie. You can make an actually horrific horror movie. Like, I love movies like Return of the Living Dead or Killer Clowns from Outer Space, where they are intentionally funny and they do it very well. This is, I would say, about 50-50 whether I think it's intentionally funny or just not good funny.
I don't think it's intentional at all.
I don't think it's intentional at all.
I love this and I hate this, but I will say, and I'm sorry, Jacob, I'd much rather watch this than the marsupials because I hate the marsupials so much.
People hate it. I honestly think people hate the marsupials more than this one. I loved it. I don't know why. Matt, the way that you connected with this one, that's how I connected with the marsupials. There's something about that. I watched it right at the beginning of COVID, or right around the time that you and I started this show.
Yeah.
So just a couple months into COVID. And I don't know. I think I was just having a weird day and I watched that and I locked into it. And it's bad. Like it's maybe even worse than this. I mean,
and it does actually have a Tex Avery wolf in it.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. But
sorry, spoilers, but
well, that is the thing about Howling 2 and 3 is that we have a lot of female werewolves, and the Howling obviously was one of the first modern ones, but it kind of started a trend in the 80s. We did get a lot more female werewolves, which is cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess go ahead, Russ. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I can't wait I don't know if you guys are going to do them all, because that would just get kind of boring, I would imagine.
I think we're going to do 3.
I think we're doing the marsupials and calling it good.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do 4, 5, 6, 7. Matt and I have already done 7. You can find that episode.
Podcast.
Yeah, different podcast. If anyone hasn't listened to Matt's That's Cool, That's Trash, his psychotronic movie podcast, please listen to it. And definitely, of course, listen to the episodes I'm on, which are at least 8 or 9, I think. And the one that
and Renee are on Howling 7.
Yeah, we watched the Howling 7 in Matt's living room with our wives, and it was amazing. And so yeah, I highly recommend listening to that episode.
I would say that 5 and 6 are better than they have any right to be. Wow. Especially another small spoiler here. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. 6 actually introduces vampires into the mix. So, but I like I said, I watched them all. I even listened to the audiobook of the original novel, and I think the Joe Dante film is better than the novel.
Is it the best of the batch of everything?
Yeah.
The property?
The 4th movie is the closest to the book, which was its intention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
reborn.
It's a little, they all have parts that I'm like, okay, they're trying something there, but
Well, I mean, 7 wasn't even meant to be part of the series. It was its own stupid ass thing. And then they cut scenes from 6 into it. I understand.
From 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, 4, 5, and 6. Okay.
So bad.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Listeners, I love The Howling. The first one is one of my top 5 favorite werewolf movies of all time. I would say watch 2 because it's of the ridiculousness, and watch 5 and 6 just because 5 and 6 feel like Full Moon Studios. They feel like a Richard Band.
They look like
a production.
Yep, they look like subspecies.
Yeah, whereas 7 is even lower than Richard Band.
7 is not a film. That's like saying a genital ward is a person.
Yeah. 7 is a lifetime movie.
DNA and they have cells. Yeah. That's it. 7 is not a movie.
I've heard they're remaking the original Howling.
That's been rumored or whatever on the books for years at this point.
Yeah. I
think it's moving forward though, post-COVID. I feel like I saw a recent thing saying this is actually happening now. Like,
I'm blanking on his name. Trick or Treat, Krampus, that guy.
Michael.
Yes.
Doherty or something like that.
Yeah. I think he's the one helming it.
I would feel okay with that.
Yeah.
I didn't like Krampus, but I love Trick or Treat. I watch it every year.
I liked. I think it was Godzilla.
He wrote X-Men 2, which I thought was the best of those films as well.
That is considered the best one for sure.
He did one of the more recent Godzillas.
He did. You're right.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that one.
It's good.
So Russ, we got to do the claw up, claw down. Where are we at here?
I have to give it a claw up. It's just it's so mesmerizing. You'll never forget this movie.
Nope.
You will never forget it.
In your room again.
I agree, but I don't think
your parents are in your room again.
Jacob.
Oh, the song I give 2 claws up to.
No. It's
song.
an experience.
No, Jacob's doing the Caesar. He's like, is feeding him to the lions?
We're allowing sideways claws now. I'm just disappointed in him. But you and I are both claws up, so that's good.
Yeah.
Jacob's just he hasn't evolved fully yet. He's devolving to a Planet of the Apes werewolf man.
I am. That's how my devolution, as Devo said, would go. I'm going to go man, ape, werewolf.
The boy who cried werewolf. I'm for certain that is just a Planet of the Apes makeup with more hair.
It might be.
The Dr. Zayas mask with just like hair. Yeah. I don't know, but that was a coif. Like that was going to the salon.
Yeah.
Type of werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, more of a Rip Torn kind of. I mean, Rip Taylor kind of a look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Russ, thank you so much for elbowing your way into this one. It was nice to have somebody on the bonus show for once.
I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to be on the main show.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're going to have your co-host of Gamma Charge on as well, Justin, who we're very excited. Well, you had us graciously. You had both Matt and I on your show where we talked with you and Justin, and we had such a good time. I think we talked for like 3 hours, and we had a really great time. So I can't wait to have you guys on our show.
Oh, we're both really excited because, you know, we love the Hulk and we love Jack Russell. So, yeah.
Jacob, awesome. Are we going straight into marsupials, or are we doing something else?
No, we're going straight into marsupials. You had yours, now I get mine.
All right.
Oh boy. I can't wait to hear that one. I really can't.
Okay, so next week we'll be talking about marsupials.
The Howling III.
Good day.
Ray and Andrew are going to be stoked. They are going to be so stoked.
Maybe so. Maybe we can get some voicemails or something, or some little thumbnail, video pop-up reviews.
Yeah, Ray and Andrew, if you guys have thoughts on the Howling 3, please leave us a voicemail and we will play it during the bonus show even.
I'm down. All right, Russ. Thanks for calling in. Love you, brother.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys.
You too.
All right, we'll see ya.
See ya.
Oh, yes, they call him the Scourge. He's got a villain killing urge. If there's a baddie around, the Scourge will mow him down. So play a funeral dirge. Yeah!
All right, so this week we have Captain America 319. This follows right behind the last episode because there's shit going down. This cover, by the way, I absolutely love this cover. If Cap can't stop Scourge, every villain on this cover will die. And I don't know about you, but I had a vested interest in some of these guys. Anybody you recognize on here that you cared about?
Not many. Not going to lie.
No?
Commander Kraken.
So I have, since I was a kid, I've had a weird connection with Mirage.
That is really weird. I would love to dig deeper into that psychologically.
Okay. Yeah. I don't get it either. Also, Cyclone, he's a French guy, right?
He's a French guy. Yeah, I like Cyclone.
Okay. Yeah, I like Cyclone. I love Mirage, and I don't know why. I think it's because his costume is so dumb. With the weird
it's pretty fucking dumb
wings and the yellow with the black pinstripes. It's so fucking weird.
It's really weird. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a huge connection to many of these characters.
Is it because you're soulless?
I mean, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best description.
So yeah, I mean, I love this. It's Zek and Joe Sennett. So I mean, is it Zek? No.
No, it's Neary.
It's Neary and Sennett again.
Yeah, same artist as we have for the issue.
Bomb ass. Yeah, so Overkill, great name for this issue. If you haven't figured this out yet, this is a key issue of this whole storyline here. So we start off with this great splash page of the Cap flinging his shield towards us, saying he's getting a little sloppy. He almost got hit by a whip, and there's an electro whip going, which I think you know who this is if you read Marvel. Yeah, Jacob, why don't you take it?
Yeah, I'm not as, I don't know. It's funny after because on the main show, we went through Cap 330, and I think I got used to Tom Morgan a little more than Paul Neary, because a lot of Cap's movements on this, I feel like there's the spirit is there, but the execution isn't done quite as well as I feel like Tom Morgan and Sam De La Rosa did.
Yeah, I kind of have the same response. I read them in the same order as well.
Yeah, so it's Cap goes on fighting with Backlash.
Blacklash.
Blacklash.
I always get his name wrong.
Yes,
and he's the goofiest looking motherfucker.
He is really, really goofy. And he's basically doing these like small time hits, like robbing jewelry stores and shit. And
Ohio
Cap,
or whatever.
Yeah. Ohio and Cleveland. Yeah.
Cleveland. Yeah.
And Cap ends up asking him like, what the fuck? Why are you doing this? And he's like, well, I'm going to be dead. Like I'm going to be dead anytime. And I want to support my mom after I'm gone. And you're like, oh God, like that's so brutal and kind of noble in a way. Cause he's just like, oh, I'm dead. No one's going to take care of my mom. Take that, Cap. What are you going to say to that?
Yeah. So Cap's hopping on his cycle thinking, oh, that's right. That guy tried to put that hit, the hit on the Anaconda or Constrictor or whoever that was. Early on in the series, we'd covered that one, and it was a nurse and they jumped out the window, and Cap's like, I'll have to check that out. And then we flash to the Serpent Society headquarters, and Sidewinder appears holding Death Adder's dead body, screaming, he's dead. Death Adder is dead. So the whole Serpent Society learns that Death Adder was murdered. And Sidewinder basically says, stop all hits, all contracts, because they're a business. Like, stop everything. We find the Scourge and kill this motherfucker. He's furious that Death Adder was murdered.
Yeah, and these pages that deal with the Serpent Society, all with their masks off, and they're all like super sad. They're a family, you know, like you actually really feel for them.
Yeah, I do.
I feel like the woman, I can't remember exactly who it is, the blonde woman on that page. I mean, you can definitely tell that's a cynic face, because I mean that's could basically be Sue Richards in 1960, whatever.
Yeah, she's like boa constrictor. Her arms stretch out all weird.
That's right.
I remember her name.
Yeah, so on the next page, we go back to the bar with no name. And just like we had talked about in the previous issue, Firebrand is there, basically showing everyone his binders that have all of the...
scrapbooking.
He's been scrapbooking. It looks really nice. And he has a convincing argument. And he's just trying to convince as many people as he can and being like, look, dumbasses, we're all dead. We have to start taking this seriously.
Yeah, so he's recruiting people for a big meetup there to try and figure out what the fuck to do about the Scourge. And then we come back to Steve in his cool van. He's talking about being a comics artist again and how cool it is that he can deliver art pages to the post office and just check in with his whatever. And then he looks at the kill list of the Scourge. He's like, God damn, this motherfucker's killed a lot of people. And he thinks back to the Serpent Society. Or no, sorry, we cut to the Serpent Society like roughing people up, trying to get leads on the Scourge. So Crime Circus, Kingpin's men, talking to Death Adder's parents, which was the weirdest.
What the fuck?
Visiting in costume as a fucking psycho freak assassin / mercenary. Like, did your son have any enemies you knew of, Mr. Burroughs?
And his parents are crying. They're just like, they're losing their shit. It's so funny. Oh, man. So, yeah, back to the bar, and Firebrand's talking about, being able to recruit people. And then who comes in? It's a Ringer. It's Anthony Davis.
Oh, yeah.
The Ringer comes in.
What of it?
And yeah, and then we we switch to a mental hospital somewhere in central Indiana, and Cap is trying to visit a patient named Greg Salinger, who we know as the Fool Killer.
And he was a second Fool Killer, which I forgot about.
I know, I'd forgotten about that too. I like that Cap kind of really lays it out for you in this. If you've forgotten who the Fool Killer is, which everyone has.
And we get some great writing from Grunwald, where he's like, so you're the second guy who styles himself the Fool Killer. Do you know who might be the third? And this guy's in a straitjacket in a padded room going, a third, Richard the third. He was a fool. Third baseman. They're fools too. A third in the hand is worth two in the bush. He just starts ranting like the Joker or something. And she's like, yeah, I told you. The nurse is like, he wouldn't be too coherent. He's like, fools rush in. Revolution number 9. A Russian Revolution, the Revolution number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9. Number 9. Which I did not get at the time. I think I would get that joke 2 years later when I got in the Beatles.
Yeah. Yeah, so Cap's like, oh, well, it was worth a try, but and he goes outside and realizes someone has a rope that's hanging off the roof. And he's like, oh shit, what if it's that vigilante that's here to kill the Fool Killer? And so he pulls on the rope, and down tumbles a pretty lady named Diamondback, who this is her first time meeting Cap. And she is she's a member of the Serpent Society, and is there to just kind of why Cap was there, to get some information from the Fool Killer. And so, yeah, she's in Cap's arms, and she is smitten almost immediately. She says, "Oh, you don't have to put me down. It was quite comfortable in your arms." So yeah, immediately she is taken with Steve.
Yes. So this was they become a romantic couple for a while, and this was the first time they met, and I was smitten with her. I remember being like, again, I was 11 or 12 when this came out, and I was like, "Oh my god, she's so pretty, and she's badass, and she likes Cap. So she's willing to turn good for the good guy." So I was a dork and like that. So they decided to team up. She says, "Hey, this serpent saucer is faster than your whatever." So they decided to take off together and hunt for the Scourge together. And we cut back to the room with, the bar with no name. And they're loading in a bunch of equipment. And the bartender's like, "What the fuck, man? What's with all this gear?" And he's like, "Oh, this is all from the Mad Thinker." Oh, no, the Tinker, sorry. He's like, "There's a metal detector and a retina scanner. We got to make sure that the Scourge isn't getting in here in disguise." So they set up all this security equipment in the bar with no name to protect the people for the big meeting, the big powwow. So back on the serpent saucer, Diamondback is explaining to Cap that she's not all bad. She came from a bad family. She had a brother who was bad, and they robbed banks together. And then the cops just gunned him down as a teenager. And I think she basically says, "I slept with Paste Pot Pete to get my first set of diamond stilettos." Am I right? Am I reading?
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting flashback.
Yeah,
detail,
because he's the biggest fucking loser in Marvel. Like,
I think that's
make all your Stiltman jokes you want. Make all your shocker jokes.
Nope.
Paste Pot Pete, the trickster, as he renamed himself or whatever.
The trapster. Yes,
is the biggest fucking loser of all the villains.
Yeah, he's such a fucking loser. And so yeah, we got a nice flashback for Diamondback for her origin. And like you said, like they're going to be an on and off couple for like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think she's in Civil War, I mean, this just keeps going on.
And I've always had a crush on her since this issue.
Oh, she's awesome. I've always loved the dynamic between her and Cap because she's a villain.
Yep.
And, that just, Cap is always so torn between her and her background, but he's obviously super attracted to her. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I like that the times that he's with Diamondback, he seems the most human. Mm-hmm. Because he's having like conflicting feelings and he's having tingling in his nethers. And so he actually, feels like a real person.
Yeah, like that bottom left panel of this page where he's like, "How'd you like to throw away your inhibitions and let me show you a real good time?" He's like, "Sorry, Diamondback." And he's like cast like there's a shadow in his eye sockets. So he's like very serious. I don't take that kind of, there's a typo here. You can tell, by the way, that they editorial changed something on that word balloon.
Right? Weird, right?
He says, "Sorry, Diamondback." And then something is whited out and changed. And he says, "I don't like that kind of thing lightly." It doesn't even make sense.
No, he meant to say, I don't take that kind of thing
lightly. But something, whatever the original thing was even different from that. I was curious what it was. Like, "I don't sleep around" or something. I don't know what it was, whatever Cap would say.
Yeah.
Being a 40s guy. But I mean, so she's kind of bummed with this, like, he's not playing ball with me. So she pulls the keys out of the serpent saucer and drops them down the front of her outfit. And it's like, well, I guess we're going to crash then. I love Diamondback so much.
Oh, she's awesome. She is awesome right out of the fucking gate. Like, she's great. So yeah, they're about to crash, but he's like, "Nope, my decision is no deal. I don't believe you're willing to throw your life away on something as so fleeting as a few moments of pleasure." She says, "You cold fish," and ends up, kind of pulling out of their nosedive. And then he's like, he put a
parachute. He's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah, he is. On the next page, he's just like, no, I can't trust you. I'm out of here. And she's like, we're 1,000 feet in the air. What are you doing? And he's like, parachute is by the hatch. That's standard issue on these AIM crafts. I'm fucking Captain America. I've done this 1 billion times. And so, he just takes a parachute. He's like, well, see you later.
Yeah, so she just lands it, and he says, "Screw it. We had a chance to work together, and I just can't trust you now." And he runs off. She's like, "Okay, wait, Cap, wait!" And they land in a cornfield, and she takes off after him, running down, and she gets shot. out of nowhere. He's like, holy shit, a gunshot. And he runs back, and his shield deflects another shot. So he's running through the cornfield, and he's whipping his shield left and right, chopping down stalks of corn and chasing after who it is, thinking it might be the Scourge. And he tackles the guy, and it turns out it's a guy in overalls and a flannel shirt with a shotgun. And Cap's like, well, fuck, the Scourge does a lot of disguise stuff. So he just starts gripping his face and mauling at him, trying to pull a mask off.
And I like this dumbass is like, hey, you ain't no Martian. You're that New York hero, Captain America. But yeah, as Cap's trying to claw his fucking face off. So that's not a great meeting there.
I get that Gunwald is sending home the fact that Cap has left New York to be America's hero, but come on, dude.
I know.
Like newsreels, everything else, he is the American hero. Like,
for
he's not a New York hero.
Many decades. Like he is America's hero for like 40 years at this point in world. So yeah, it's pretty funny. And he apologizes. He's like, I'm really sorry, Captain. I didn't know it was you. And so I love that Cap goes to take care of Diamondback thinking she's dying. And she's like, please grant a dying woman's last request. Kiss me. He's like, you're not dying, Diamondback. The farmer's buckshot tore up your arm and shoulder. She's awesome.
I love her so much.
Like she is going for it and is so cool and funny as shit.
Yes, she's hilarious.
A great character right out of the gate. I can totally understand why people fell in love with her and why she is in Cap's radar for the next 20 years. Yeah,
she's so fun and she's sympathetic because her backstory does make sense. It's like, I can get why you fell into a life of crime.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, she's sympathetic and she's hilarious and she's sexy. So it's like, God, everyone loves her.
So back at the bar with no name, it's a Saturday night and everyone is showing up. I mean, everyone.
Mirage.
Mirage, Birdman,
Letha.
And they're doing
Turner D. Century.
Oh, Turner D. Century. Wow.
Who I love, who first appeared in Spider-Woman.
That's right. I actually read that issue, and
that's the best of Claremont's, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I kind of like dipped in and out, just kind of seeing. And but there's new security at the bar with no name. There's a retinal scan going on to get in, and so everyone thinks they're safe. So we have a bunch of low tier, but still great. Not knocking them for this, but fairly forgettable villains, and they're all there.
In Mirage.
And Mirage. And so there's a great panel on the bottom of the next page where there's a roll call. And so everyone is seated there. I mean, yeah. There's
you can't skip over the fact that Cyclone came in and said Garçon, a Chateau Lafite Rothschild 29, please, because he's French.
Because he's French, and he's at this closed down bar, and obviously they're going to have a 60-year-old French wine for him in the cellar of the bar with no name. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So yeah, all these villains are here. You know, we got Hellraiser, the Grappler, Rapier, Mirage, the Hijacker, Commander Kraken, Letha, Birdman, the Cheetah, the Vamp, Jaguar, Cyclone, Shellshock, Steeplejack, Turner D. Century, and Mindwave. I think that's all of them. Yeah, so we have a ton of villains. They're all getting together for this meeting to be like, what the fuck are we gonna do?
So Gary Gilbert, formerly Firebrand, stands up and starts to say, okay, so here's the MO of this guy. He uses lots of disguises. He has armor-piercing bullets. He comes out of nowhere and kills people. And he starts listing off who's been killed. And the profile of the victim is someone who's encountered a quote-unquote superhero at least once, been convicted for some crime or other, and uses unusual weapons or powers. So all the villains are looking at each other like, watermelon. Yeah. So Gilbert says, so the question is, how are we going to protect ourselves? How are we going to stop the scourge of the underworld? And people start yelling out, let's put up $1 million award, challenge him to a duel. Let's all go into hiding. Let's ask the Avengers to protect us. Let's kill all superheroes. Then we're sure to get the one doing this to us. How about calling in S.H.I.E.L.D.? He's like, whoa. Okay, hey. Let's not all talk at once. And then we cut behind the bar and we see the bartender wearing the Muscle Beach shirt, who's been there the entire last 2 issues, pulling a gun out slowly as in front of him Gary Gilbert's saying, okay, let's each take our suggestions one at a time and debate the pros and cons. And the bartender's pulling this gun out and says, say, Gary, may I make a suggestion? You could all, and then he just swings left and right like Punisher going, eat, let, and die. The final panel is him standing, his face in shadow, a assault rifle tucked into his belt somehow, holding another arm above his head, the bartender mask pulled off in his hand, saying, dead, all 18 of them. Justice is served. And it says next, Cap versus Scourge.
Yeah, wow. So that it's a pretty great Scourge issue. So I'm sure your scan as well has the American Graffiti letters column on the next, and the editor goes and lists every single one of Scourge's kills.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Appearances and
first appearances and deaths. And how cool is that? Like I just love that touch that they've been spending so much time on this. And it has, I mean, this has been spread out over how long, Matt? A year?
Yeah, at least a year.
It's at least a year.
It's late 85, I think. And this is early 87. So a year and a half, I think.
Wow. So it's cool that they went back and just like, okay, basically being like, okay, if this is your first issue, this is all what's going on. This is where all these characters came from. And yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah. I love that they slowly ramped this up over a year with just like, obviously if you folks have been listening, the first appearances were literally one panel, 2 or 3 panels, and maybe a page, and it keeps growing and growing. Right. So now this is a real thing. I mean, he's taking out people that don't have a ton of weight, but it's obviously a problem that needs to be addressed by the superhero community. So yeah, I love this. I love, there's an issue that's, we talked about last episode with the Wraith being killed in that Amazing Spider-Man issue. And, they address it, in a follow-up letter. I don't know if you want me to look at it, but they kind of say, sorry if you noticed like this happens, but we intended this to be published a month before this issue. So like I think do they even credit him here? They do, right?
I think so, yeah.
But yeah, they explain like that's our bad. We pushed him out a month. And so he was referenced in multiple books as having been dead, but he wasn't dead yet. So anyway, yeah, great issue. In addition to the Bar with No Name Massacre, which is a kind of a major Marvel moment, even though I still don't like the fact that the Hood resurrected all of them in the aughts. It's pretty. I'm not gonna say undercut it because it wasn't like the biggest thing in the world, but like just kind of like it was cool in its own small little way, and you undid it.
I know. So, Matt, did you realize there is an Epic collection called Justice is Served?
No.
And yes. So
holy shit.
It has nearly everything. I'm sure it might not have some of the panel, but it kind of seemed like it had a lot of stuff. You can find it. You're not going to like it because I think if you go on Amazon, there's one copy that's in good condition. So shitty condition for
like $80, been out? Like $80.
Yeah. It hasn't been out for it's been out for a little while.
Okay. I didn't realize they'd been doing them that long. The Epic collections.
Oh yeah. They've been doing those for like 4 or 5 years, I think, at least.
That's not that long to me.
No, it's not that long, but no, this is yeah, so it is out there. So we'll keep an eye on it and try and make sure we can get you a copy.
So yeah, in the departments of oopses and awards, the Wrath was mistakenly listed as dying in Amazing Spider-Man 277 when it was actually in ASM 278. And it says, and speaking of flubs, which we were, a goodly number of you made a note of the glitch in continuity between Cap 319 and Spider-Man 278. In ASM 278, we witnessed Scourge listening to a radio report of the massacre at the Bar with No Name just before he goes out and attempts to kill the Hobgoblin and succeeds in killing the Wraith. With us so far? Well, in Cap 318, which occurs before ASM 277, we see a newspaper clipping noting the Wraith's death. Conundrum and a half, right? We do have a reason why this little cross-title slip-up occurred, but it's not a very good one, so we'll spare you it. If you really want to know, drop us a stamped self-addressed envelope and we'll tell you. So yeah, it was just a timing thing, I'm sure, by editorial. So
yeah,
it was confusing for me trying to like, I think I sent you a thing saying like, oh shit, let's pivot and go back to here, blah, blah. But it was nobody's fault except Marvel's. So
yeah. So that's a no prize for you, Matt.
Yeah. I'm going to put it right next to this one.
Yeah.
So I have two now.
So jealous.
Yeah. Right on. So are we going to that ASM 278? That's our next one, right?
Yeah, that's our next one.
Cool. So I hope you're enjoying reading along with me now. That it's not just show and tell, that it's becoming a bigger part of the issues.
Yeah, for sure. No, I've loved it. Yeah, cool. I really have liked these last two Cap issues that we've dealt with. No, it's been really cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. And again, we were gushing earlier. I fucking love Diamondback. I love her relationship with Steve Rogers, and seeing it start as ferociously and sexually charged as it did was
it was
super
awesome.
Fun.
Yeah, that was my favorite part. So cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, this has been a long bonus show. We've done a lot. I was glad we had Russ on. I'm glad we got to do a full issue of Cap. We're going to talk, like you said, we're going to talk about Amazing Spider-Man 278, right? Next episode.
And marsupials.
And the Howling 3 marsupials. So yeah, don't miss that one. There's going to be we'll have a lot of fun. We'll disagree a lot, and that's why people tune in, for our disagreements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So without further ado, may your fur never bristle in the moonlight.
Stay furry, friends.